Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Great Future Sports. This is episode 16. We're still counting because we haven't gotten to 100. So we'll keep counting until we're at 100 and hope you've been enjoying our episodes. So today we start with our trending topic, which is focused on gaming. And I got some stats. I'm going to read them right off the paper to make sure that I have them right. So we're talking about gaming participation and trends. And 85% of U.S. teens, ages 13 to 17, play video games, showing that gaming is a mainstream activity and not just a niche hobby. Nearly 41% of teens play games at least once a day. 72% of teens say they play games to spend time with others, highlighting the social and community dimensions of gaming. So there were some questions that were posed, and I'm going to answer that question. So the question asks, how do I see gaming and esports influencing young people we serve here at Boys and Girls Club in Newark? And I see it the way I've always seen it. You know, games are a huge part of teenagers' lives. It was a huge part of my life growing up. You know, my friends, we got together, we played different competitive games like NBA Live, Madden. Now 2K took over the NBA Live position. That's a whole different conversation because I actually, funny enough, thinking about this. And so games are huge for people. And I saw a supposed prank video of a guy who got a character to 90 on 2K. Now, if you know anything about NBA 2K, then you know that some time ago they broke my spirit and just made the game unnecessarily hard to play casually. And so I don't play 2K anymore for many years. And this guy got this character to 90, and his girlfriend completely deleted the character and did it as a prank. But it's not a prank when you destroy something forever. It's supposed to be a joke. A prank is a joke. But one of the things I see is that kids still gather around video games, and we do know that online mobile games are huge now, where people are interacting with individuals from different countries and meeting new people that they've never met in real time. And I see that as important. I see the beauty of esports as important. Kids can be competitive. They can build gaming into a lifestyle, make it a part of how they earn money, being competitive, or having a video blog or a YouTube page or Twitch. So these are some great ways that games help to engage young people. But one of the things we see is the trend of too much screen time, too much time on the internet, social media. And what happens is when people spend too much time, particularly young people, building a life online, it makes it difficult for them to disengage from that social setting. So when they have to communicate with people face to face, go into a job interview, and figure out who it is that they want to be in daily life when they don't have their screen or their controller in their hand, some of them have a difficult time. And so we here at Boys and Girls Club are very intentional with making sure that young people have time to engage one another without their phones, without being online, without video games, because the most important thing is being able to connect with people. And building those connections, going on those activities and excursions in the state, outside of the state, connecting with your political officials, helps one young person in particular transition to become the Youth of the Year. So that is our focus today for our programmatic theme, is the Youth of the Year program, which is near and dear to my heart because I was once the State Youth of the Year for New Jersey many, many years ago, 1999, 2000. And I always tell a story because we had 3 in a row back at that time, Vaughn Crow, Sharice Williams, and myself for the state of New Jersey. And so Newark was, turning out some of the best and brightest youth that Boys and Girls Club had ever seen. That's just a feather in my cap because I'm awesome. But on a serious note, the Youth of the Year program really helps a young person's experience at Boys and Girls Club of Newark or somewhere else culminate into this experience where they're transitioning to university and quite frankly, adult life. One of the amazing things about this experience is it's not really a competition, but we have 5 candidates and they're all vying to be called the Youth of the Year. And if a kid wins their local club, they go on to the state selection. If they win the state, they go on to the regional selection. And if they win the regional, they become National Youth of the Year after the National Youth of the Year experience. And the coolest thing is that all the regional winners get to meet the President of the United States, spend some time in the Oval Office, and spend some time in Washington, D.C., and to add some icing on the cake, tons and tons of scholarship opportunities, as well as, so far, for the last several years, a motor vehicle from Toyota, one of our great partners who supports this wonderful program. And so what this program does is it takes some of our young people, and we like to start them as early as 14, so they start to understand the experience, learn how to sit in front of an individual they've never met, interview, feel comfortable and confident in themselves, tell their story, and tell their story about how the Boys and Girls Club has helped to shape their lives. So I share how many levels it is, and what comes with the role if you win is that you essentially become the youth spokesperson for your club, your state, your region, and the national Boys and Girls Club movement, which is a huge opportunity to share what's affecting young people, across the country, what's important to young people. You get to talk to donors, you get to talk to political officials, you get to talk to individuals in the community who have an interest in seeing things improve for young people. That person becomes kind of a spokesperson for youth around our communities, around the country. And that young person starts to understand how their voice can, really illuminate what's going on for other young people who are coming behind them, who may be experiencing a challenge in their lives. And you start to understand the complexities of being able to have time for yourself, show up for yourself, but also to lead and show up for other people as a leader within, the teen environment throughout their neighborhood, their club, and the country. So what's really great about it is that you get to meet a lot of people. You start to get into social circles that you may not have ever been in, but you also start to learn that just being yourself is the best version of yourself you could ever be. You don't have to be anyone other than yourself. And oftentimes, young people who play video games or spend a lot of time on social media are often trying to build a persona that is reflective of who they would like to be rather than who they are. And that's what you don't get if you don't engage in programs or experiences that the Boys and Girls Clubs helps young people get engaged with. Because one of the difficulties with online engagement is that it's very easy to be a bully. It's very easy to be mean, to be, make racial slurs. And these things happen if you've ever been in an online community where people are playing video games. Tensions get high, it's competitive, everyone's trying to win. And some people can be really mean and nasty. And so one of the things we try to do when we engage young people with video games is make sure that they're with people they know, people that they're comfortable with, people who feel good about them, and vice versa, so that they have a healthy experience. And then to recognize the challenges with having unfettered and unsupervised video game time and how they should show up and how other people can really be destructive, quite frankly. And so video games are a wonderful thing. They allow you to escape from, the travails of life, too much school and education, whether you're going to get a date for the dance or the prom, and let you enjoy something that was put together by, some really creative and talented people. There are tons of fabulous stories that come from video games that have ended up as movies. One television show I'm watching right now is called Fallout, which is a very interesting kind of zombie apocalypse thing. It's a little wacky show. I don't recommend it for teenagers because it's a little out there. But these are the things that video games birth, and we've seen that where films become video games and video games become films and television shows. So it's an incredible platform, and one of the things I think that's more important is that we're teaching coding and other things so that kids who want to pursue those kinds of engagements are able to do so. So me, I wanted to be Youth of the Year because it was something that was very, focused and elevated here at our club. And every month we, have our picture, depending on who the Youth of the Month was, put up in the club, and you got to see your name on the plaque. And it's just a cool thing. And it's going through that experience, learning how to present myself and feel confident was very telling. The preparation process that we have young people go through rather is not so similar from what we used to do. So the kids will put together a packet of essays about who they are, their club experience. They get recommendation letters, and then we have them go around the club and introduce themselves. As a Youth of the Year, shake hands, learn how to engage in networking, meet and greet. But the other thing is a 3-minute speech about who they are, what their personal brand is, what they want to achieve, how they want to use their voice to elevate a particular issue or multiple issues that are facing teenagers. And then they have mock interviews to prepare for our partners who we get to gather together with to interview our kids and select them for us. We know our kids, and so we would be seen as biased if we selected them ourselves. And so there's a grading sheet. Each kid gets their 3-minute speech opportunity, and then they sit down in front of the judges and they get to ask them prepared questions and questions that come up throughout the course of the interview. And what they're really looking for is clarity of thought, their academic performance, how well they really know how to tell their story, the impact of the Boys and Girls Club on their life, and then what they see themselves doing in the future and how they intend to impact others and their community along the way, right? It's great to be intelligent. It's great to, have a good head on your shoulders and know what you want, but the even better thing is to always pay what you receive forward. So really having a means and use of the platform of being Youth of the Year to help other people and to pull other people up is probably one of the most important aspects of ultimately who gets chosen. And one thing I always tell young people, and it was a great thing that I learned throughout the process when I went to the regional competition, is you never know why the judges selected you or someone else. And if you don't get selected, you're already a winner. The fact that you've been chosen to participate in this program at all is because people see you as a leader. They see you as someone who's done the right things most of the times, who's made good decisions, who's engaged in the right kinds of programs and engagements. And they already feel confident that you're going to be okay. And many people who weren't youth of the year or were only youth of the year for the club or for the state and didn't win the region or won the region and didn't win national became fabulous individuals working at great companies, running their own companies, and doing wonderful things in their communities. One of the stories I always tell often is this process is really about preparation for showing up and doing what you need to do on time. My mother, who unfortunately passed away during the year I won the youth of the year, the previous year when I was going through the process as a candidate, I asked my mother for a recommendation like a day or two before it was due. And she looked at me right in my face and said, when do you need this? And I said, oh, I think tomorrow or maybe a day from today or whatever, 2 days. And she says, I'm not going to write that. I said, but Mom, this is about my future and this is important to me. And she looked me dead in the eye and said, if this is important to you, then you would have given me more time. And next year, if you were part of it, I will be more than happy to write the recommendation letter for you. So my packet went forward without my mother's recommendation letter, and I did not win. I don't know if it was just because of that, but it really teaches responsibility. And one of the things we do with our kids here is we give them the packet, we tell them how to do it, we have all the support in the world, but they have due dates because in their lives, for the rest of their lives, whether they ultimately become the person making the due dates, they will have deadlines to do things. And even if you're a CEO or even if you're a business leader or owner, there's due dates for things, for permits, to build buildings, if you want investors to invest in your company, they're going to want to meet at a particular time under particular circumstances. You have to be able to meet those time constraints. So that's really, really important. And at that stage of my life, I just cared about my future and what I would become and how life would look. And but it didn't quite shape out the way I imagined it to be. Things are better in some ways, and you learn from the mistakes you make. And so I think one thing for young people to remember is that the moments that are painful and hurtful, like not winning the regional is kind of like oh, that kind of sucked, but I'm okay. I did great in life overall. And I think sometimes we think about competition that if we don't win, that we didn't succeed. And I think on the last episode or conversation I was having with somebody recently is that sometimes we forget the journey of life experience. So really, thinking through what did I get out of this experience as opposed to whether I won or lost. And if you win, you have that also to think about. But sometimes winning comes with the price of not knowing where you need to improve, because when you win, you think you've done everything right. And one of the hardest things I always talk about is self-reflection. And if you're unable to self-reflect and analyze where you didn't do so well when you had success, you often will end up not having success later on in some other endeavor. One of the best places to learn that is if you play sports, and that could be esports or whatever, is when you lose and you watch tape back, you get to see all the reasons why you lost. Even when you did something right, more things were done wrong, whether it's a turnover, whether it was a missed position to defend someone who was trying to score a basket in football, whatever it was. You can see your mistakes more clearly when you don't have victory. So don't look at defeat as defeat, look at it as failing forward and having success in certain moments, but figuring out why you made the mistakes you made so that you don't repeat them again. Um, as I'm reflecting on this, I think back to the experience, I think about all the things I could have done better. I think today we're a little bit better in preparation for what happens after it's all over. Like I was talking about networking, I was taught to shake hands and look somebody in the eye and be clear in what I was saying, but I wasn't taught cleanly about saving the business cards and following up and reaching out and keeping that relationship with those who you come across, because I don't think I have a single business card from that time when I was 16. And not to say that any 16-year-old necessarily would, but I think we're a little bit more intentional about saying, hey, when you connect with these individuals and you become an adult and you're looking for job opportunities or advice, or this person is still in the industry that you're interested in pursuing, you have somebody that you met when you were a young person that you can continue to connect with. And the experience was good in every way, and the negatives that one that I just talked about, and things that I could say, I don't really view them as negatives. I think we all have a journey. Things happen in life for whatever reason that they do, and then you arrive at whatever place you ultimately arrive at before it's all over, said and done. And so I think that's more important. We're just going through the experience, meeting and greeting different people, learning how to say not be selected gracefully, shaking the hand of the winner and saying congratulations, good luck, take the win for our region or whatever the case may be, right? And learning how to be humble and appreciating the success of others. I think one of the things I see often on the internet is people being angry at the success of others, because when you do that, you're thinking about life from a deficit mindset. Is that I don't have something because they have something. And that's never generally true unless somebody steals from you. So unless somebody actually took something from you, you don't lose when someone else wins. You just have a recorrection of where you need to go and what you need to be doing so that you have your own version of success, or ultimately the success you imagine yourself having. Because, you know, those who have won prior to me and after me, they all had varying degrees of success. Some people who didn't win the state competition or regional competition or whatever, doing fabulous in life. Those who didn't become national winners or leaders at companies like H&M or Valvoline. My mentor is an executive at Valvoline. And one of the young ladies who was a regional winner a couple years ago that saw at the national conference was a executive at H&M. And so life doesn't end with the youth of the year or any program you're engaged in. Life ends when you're no longer here. And so as long as you're breathing and as long as you're doing well in life and health, then you can always pursue something and be successful. And so that's what I would impart on kids. And if I had a magic wand, I would structure the experience so that everyone would understand that they've already won and they could see their future clearly in their mind, regardless of the outcome. And that would be a weird way to structure the experience, but I think that's the most important piece, because there's so much buildup, and you have these fabulous kids. And if you ever have the opportunity to see a state competition, and we always want our kid to win, right? Because we see them every day, we know them, we know their family, we know their challenges, we know their struggles. But on paper, and on the videos, and in the room, all these kids are amazing, regardless of where they come from, whether it's Clifton or Union or Patterson. These are some fabulous young people that other people are serving in different parts of our state. And then when you see the National Youth of the Years, I mean, you can just imagine, how incredible each of these young people are. So in competition, there's usually only one true winner, right? That's first place, that's the champion. And, that's why success isn't, judged by how many awards you get. It's really judged by what you choose to pursue. And that's how I would structure this, to really key that in for kids at the beginning and all the way throughout the process. I would just make sure that there was somebody there to tell every kid at every table, no matter what happens here, you've already won, you're already a success. And I think that would make kids feel good about however it shapes out, because right, it feels like a competition because there are other people and you have to ultimately be selected out of this group, but you're not competing against these other people. You're competing against who you were yesterday. Are you a better speaker today than you were yesterday? Are you a better writer? Are you better able to articulate your ideas and your positions on things? And if that is the barometer for success, then it doesn't matter who gets to hold up the plaque at any of it. Now, you might want the scholarship money, and I would have wanted a little bit more too, but we can't have everything in life, can we? So one of the things I would say as a daily habit to help you at any point in your life is, one, to wake up as early as you can and go to bed as early as you can. As a CEO of Boys and Girls Club, I have my time connected to so many different meetings, engagements, talking to people, being here with our team, being here with our members, going to different events. And often the day is completely filled with engagements with other individuals. And so it's always important to make time for yourself, to reflect, to think about what you want to do, what you're pursuing, and why, and then to spend time making sure that you're self-improving. And so I try to get up early as often as I can to read, to exercise, especially now. I need to lose a few pounds anyway. And to make time for myself to think through what I want to do, how I want to do things, both in personal and in professional life, so that I understand what I'm doing and why I'm pursuing it is that I'm pursuing. And so if you can spend time getting to bed early, getting up early, doing something for yourself, reading, meditating, writing in a journal, I think those are good practices for anybody who is pursuing anything or trying to understand themselves better. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. If you'd like to meet our Youth of the Years, we are having our Evening of the Stars Gala at the Park Avenue Club in Forum Park. on May 7th from 6 to 9 p.m. We'll be there. We'll have a great time. The theme of the evening is Once Upon a Dream. And so we'll have some fun stuff happening on stage and in the room. So if not, we look forward to having you again for the next episode of The Great Futures Forge. I'm your host, Ameer Washington. If you enjoyed this and any of our other content, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to make sure you stay up to date with what's going on here at Boys and Girls Newark. Have a great one. See you soon.